Today, I have the one and only Bill Schlaf on the show. Welcome, Bill. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Very good.
Welcome to the Signaturelife podcast, where we sit down with signature real estate agents with a shared conviction that moving towards things we want in life starts with the choices we make today. We're creating an ever-evolving culture for those who wish to participate in a larger mission to help others achieve their full potential and a signature life.
I got a story of just kind of retooling my career and figuring out another way to help people.
Yeah.
That's all I did.
You've got a long history here. You've been in Vegas over 50 years. Born and raised here?
I've been here since 65.
Wow.
That is correct, and my folks came in the mid-50s, and we have history with the Desert Inn Hotel. My great-uncle was the first gaming license holder for the DIN owner with Wilbur Clark.
Wow.
And lived at the property until like 72, and then he retired to Newport, and unfortunately we lost him. But that's what brought my folks, that's what brought my dad here, and then my mom came from Boca Raton and was working in the showroom, and that's where my folks met. But in the early 50s, and they started doing land together in the 50s.
Wow.
So, because my great uncle told him that the city was going to grow, and he knew that there was more money coming to the town, so he and my folks started getting into land in the 50s. And we actually still own a piece now that my father bought in 58 in the southwest portion of the valley. That's an amazing parcel.
Which has been a really fast-growing area of town.
That area of town, well, that pocket was the last one. So once the rest of the town grew around it, it's filling the fastest now. I think the reason there was any delay on it was due to the fact that that was a lot of airport land out there, and over the years the airport released it to create funds to build new projects at McCarran. That's how the airport does create monies for the tunnel and all
Terminal
the additional
3 and
all the additional terminals that have come. When I was a kid, my folks literally pulled up to the curb of the main terminal and watched us to where we got to the desk. They didn't even get out of the car, and as soon as we were at the TWA terminal, because we were always flying to Montreal because my mom came from Quebec. As soon as they saw us at the counter, they just pulled away.
They knew you were good.
Well, it was that where you checked in was literally about 60 feet from the curb. I mean, it wasn't like we were in some far distance. It was like they could still yell and I could hear them,
Mm-hmm.
But that's the way McCarran got started. But then all of the growth that McCarran's done, all these major multi-million-dollar projects, including the tunnel, all of those funds were created by the sale of the land out in the Southwest. But that's also why I believe the Southwest has kind of been the last Mohican to fill, because of all the airport traffic and the airlines flying out over here. Nobody used to really want to build houses so much out there because they knew they would deal with the airplane
flyover.
But then when the FAA changed the route systems about 10 years ago to where they fly all over the valley now, even where I live in Pecoli and up by our other Summerlin office, there's no benefit or disbenefit by owning in the Southwest, and that land is prime for development. And the section line roads were still very manageable for the Department of Transportation to go out there and put in the 120 foot wide 6-lane roads to deliver and handle all that traffic out there. So that's how the Southwest is becoming such a great frontier. And then with the stadium going in now, and then the development of Mountain's Edge and Southern Highlands, all that's happening now is the gap is filling in. You see Storybook out there buying a lot of 5 and 10 acre lots and doing those 18 to 24 house developments, very small, but they're good quality product, and they have high-end finishes they give the new buyers for free. So they're filling them, and it's really a great area of town to still get into the Strip corridor. You're not too far. As compared to some of the stuff out in the northwest off the 215 north in Wallapai, you're looking at 40 minutes to get into the Strip corridor if you have anything to do with the hotels or if you're working downtown. So the Southwest is just an amazing frontier for new development, and why all the investors are really concentrating on that area. And then you have the guys that we work with that knew that 30 years ago and bought that dirt for nothing, and it's creating opportunity for us now because they know it's worth a lot more, but they got it for such a reasonable price that they can still sell it at a value and make tons of money. So there's still a lot of opportunity, and there's a lot of business activity out in that area, and there's going to be a lot of business activity out there for the next 10 to 15 years. And I personally think with the expansion of the highway going into Pahrump and that blue diamond exposure, well, a lot of the major players are picking up stuff along Blue Diamond, knowing that Pahrump is just already surging now, and it's going to continue to explode over the next 3 to 4 years, in my opinion. Land out there is still very reasonable for the builders, and it's only a 40-minute drive for the folks that are coming from California that have to drive 2 to 3 hours to get to work. Making a 40-minute drive from Pahrump into the Strip corridor is absolutely nothing. That is just a slam dunk. Everything in another area that I think is going to continue to flourish, and I think is going to be a really great community with the explosion we've had on the south end of the Strip, and all of what's going on with both the Raiders practice facility, the Costco that went on in St. Rose, and the new mixed use. I think it's like a 140-acre development they're doing that's very similar to the district that's going to be over there close to the Costco and between the M and that executive airport is just going to be huge. So I actually like anything towards Sloan. I like anything behind the M all the way out to the Sloan exit. Via Inspirada, they've already bypassed and ran it down to Las Vegas Boulevard on this furthest southern end because they know that's needed with the infrastructure and all the building that's going to happen in between the M and Via Inspirada and that Sloan Speedway area out there. That is just as hot as a pancake right now. Working with a few different buyers and sellers out in that area trying to put things together, but it is very busy. But I do the southwest and the southern end of the valley are going to continue to flourish. But you can't forget about all the stuff that's happening in the north too.
Sky Canyon area.
Sky Canyon
Kyle
area, 215 north, with the expansion of the 215 getting completed all the way down to I-15, with North Las Vegas completing the bond process and bringing the water to Apex is absolutely off this world. A huge step to bring water and sewer from city of North Las Vegas outside the rim of the valley, which is a climb, and the reason it took so long to get the bonding in place is because they have to put so many water pumps in to get that water out of the valley up to Apex. But it was finally completed. The bonds are in place, and they're digging the pipe. It's going in. I think Apex, anything in between Apex and that 215 is golden, especially east towards the I-15 and that Speedway area is already exploding with all the tilt-ups and commercial that's going in around the Speedway and off of Nellis and off of Pecos out there. It is just insane. So yeah, as much as the South is being driven by, the Raiders and Henderson growing so fast and all of our California traffic, they really like that side because they feel like they're closer to home. And it gives them a 20-minute jump on everybody else that's going to go to California for Christmas,
right.
Whatever. But the North, for a lot of the old Vegas folks and for people coming out of Utah and people coming out of this Mesquite area, and or if they're relocating from Logandale, that Northwest and that northern corridor is just as exciting for them. And the lots are bigger out there. The homes are a little bit more reasonable, especially closer to I-15. They can get decent-sized lots, and they can get good houses for a reasonable price because the builders are still getting land out there for a reasonable price. I would say that the stuff out in the south, we're looking at an average of $300 to $400 an acre, depending on where it's at, if it's interior or commercial. I would say out in the north and northwest, you can still get really good value really good value from anywhere from like 150 to 250 an acre out there. So that's attractive to the builders.
Yeah.
And they try to push that down to the buyers to where they have the lower priced house with a bigger lot and the same amenities and same finishes that they're putting out here in the Southwest. The Storybook product out here or the Storybook product out off of Revere and the 215, they're the same product.
Same thing, different price.
But out there, you'll probably have a better, you
Lot.
might have a better lot because you're going to get a little bit more room because they didn't pay as much for the dirt. So, everything's relative. I think we're solid. The one thing about Vegas that I think a lot of people don't give it credit for, and being born and raised here, I have innate feel and groove for, is the fact that the infrastructure that the Department of Transportation and the commissioners work together. The Beltway was started 20 years ago now. You think about it. I work with California investors. I work with people out of Europe, et cetera, and what they can't believe, I just can't believe how big the roads are. You guys complain about the traffic, but it really isn't bad traffic, and you can still get from one end of the city to the other in about 35 minutes, to where a lot of these other metros, that's just not the case. And the infrastructure, and with regards to the grid that they set up with these 120-foot wide section line roads that run across the city both ways, just provides a great transportation situation for all the residents here. And I think that's what draws a lot of people here. Another thing about Vegas is we're new. I mean, we're a new city compared to a lot of the other cities. So the infrastructure is all fairly new. So going in and retrofitting it when it does need retrofit, it's not as much of a challenge as they deal with in Anaheim, where things are 200, 300 years old. So I think that Vegas has always been kind of good for investment, whether it be land, house, commercial, due to the fact that we kind of, even when we do have corrections, we tend to get hit last, and we tend to bounce back much quicker. And even the economists say that that's the case, and they have the numbers to prove it. I'm not the economist, but I can tell you, after being here for 50 years, that that's the way I felt. I mean, I feel the rest of the country is in a major, correction, and we're just kind of just feel like, well, it's not is crazy for March Madness this year, but it's not like no one's coming, right? So I think that we're really good. And then, one step, then compound that and exploit that just a little bit more. That's the one thing my dad always said to me about land. And it's true. Land is the last thing to get hurt, and it's the first thing to come back. And it doesn't get hurt to the extent or the percentage that like a commercial building or a house will, because the improvements, it's just dirt. So, yeah, I mean, that's where I think that Vegas for my family has just been an amazing catalyst for my dad to be somewhat successful here and my family to be successful here, and me. I learned from them, though, and I wouldn't know anything if it wasn't for my folks. But I will say that I completely agree. And I feel that if somebody's talking to me about investment and they've got, a nest egg put aside, I bring up the land, because you have property taxes. That's it. I mean, you're not going to deal with any housing crisis. The land will sit. It won't go down too much during the correction, and it's going to come back the quickest because the builders are going to need it sooner than anything.
Right, and your holding costs are basically going to stay the same.
Your holding costs always, yeah. And if anything, the property taxes for that year might just kind of stay level instead of going up, because the comps around it aren't driving the taxes up. So if anything, you'll just kind of stay very constant. But I think if location is right, and you just try to stick to corners and certain parameters, that you're always going to be safe with land in Vegas.
Just depend on the length of time you got to hold it, right?
Correct. I mean, I think the biggest term I would use with speculative land investments is just patience. The number one word to remember is patience.
Mm-hmm.
And timing. I mean, we all know, and that's the same with houses, but most certainly comes into play and is most important is timing on land and knowing when to sell and not waiting too long, because then you can get overbuilt and you have, then you've got to do the backfill thing and might have to take, because you have so much building going around you that you weren't able to make it commercial, or you weren't able to have the flexibility with it that you would have while it was still all wide open to do the zone change or whatever. But yeah, no, I think land is just a great vehicle for people and investment. I really do.
So how do you keep up on everything that's going on in this valley? Is it more like you're studying it, or is it because you're working with so many people and you're learning because you're working with them?
I think it's a combination of both. I mean, I still have to stay on top of, especially with land, there's a lot of 1031 stuff that
Right.
goes on, a lot of exchange. So I have to keep up with, because the 1031 exchange parameters change. They're always changing, and it's good to stay up on those. But I will say that I think the majority of my knowledge comes from experience of closing deals and working with folks and working through. Along with, just the old standards that I do, I make sure that I make it to at least 2 to 3 town board meetings every year for each area, whether it be Winchester, Enterprise, the different townships. It's important just to kind of know what people are doing, and it keeps you up with, if nothing else, when you go to those meetings, there's certain land people in town that you always run into, and you end up going and having coffee after the meeting, and that's how deals happen and
Right.
things, we share stuff at those meetings. County commissioner meetings the same, or at least making sure that I review the agendas for all the county commissioner meetings to see who's doing zone changes and where, and why they're doing them. Okay. It's all vital, and I think it just keeps you, by going to those meetings, it keeps you abreast of what's going on around your parcels, but moreover, it's a synergy thing too, where you see those same people, you get to know the town board members and all the constituents that come for Enterprise, so if you ever do need to go get something done, they recognize you, and I always wear this hat, but when I go to town board meetings, everyone always remembers, oh, that's Bill Schlaf with the hat from Signature, or that's Bill Schlaf. I did a deal with his dad 15 years ago, and he's been around a while, so I think we can trust him. Well, and it's true. I mean, those things, that trust and those relationships have taken me decades to build. I have off-market pocket listings from various land barons here in town that other agents don't have access to because of the relationships that have been built over the last few decades
Right.
through my family. But at the same time, there's still a lot of opportunity for people to go out and do great deals that they don't have to be pocket listings, and they don't have to be a certain person's piece of land to be a great deal. And there's all kinds of different vehicles that in the tools, some of the tools that you've given us, Brandon. I mean, my co-star now, I mean, that gives me full transparency on a lot of stuff that used to take me a trip downtown to get into the records or an assessor's office. Now I can pierce through LLCs, and I can get right to owners and be able to call them and say, hey, you have any interest in selling that dirt that you've been sitting on for the last 30 years? Because I have a buyer for you. So it's a combination, I guess, kind of going back to the main question, is it's a combination of all of it that helps me grow and learn and help people, because really the bottom line of all of it is just I have to know that I'm helping people every day, because if I'm not doing that, it's not filling my tank. And I don't have enough to just work on for myself, for my family. I mean, I got enough to, I could just kind of get by and do that, but it's not the way I got knowledge. I want to help people and share and do zoning stuff and help people that are thinking outside of the box and want to try something new or build a new business or just find a place to plant some money where they don't have to worry,
Yeah.
and they don't want to play the rental game and have to fix air conditioning units and refrigerators, right?
Yeah, and that comes through, and I think that's why so many people are drawn to work with you, is because you genuinely care. It's not about a transaction for you. It's actually about the whole process and the experience and helping that person through that so that they can accomplish their goals. And that's rare in our business, I think. But when you find someone like yourself, that's gold.
Well, I'm speechless that you would say that. I think we're all given graces and talent to some degree. I think all individuals have strengths that other people don't know about.
Right.
I think it's a shame if I wasn't exercising the knowledge and helping people learn. I feel like I would be greedy, and it's just not who my family is and not the way they modeled for me. So I think that I don't think anyone should, if they have that ability to help people and share great knowledge that can help their family and generations to come, because it's like with my family, it's the stuff that my folks did isn't for me, it's for my kids. And
right.
What I'm doing is going to be for their kids and their kids. And I think that when people know that, and I think a lot of people feel the same way. I know you feel the same way. I know what you do with tea. I mean, it's a beautiful thing. And the amount of knowledge and grooming and transfer of knowledge that you've given him over the last 3 years has got to be just absolutely amazing. And I know that he appreciates that. But I know you wouldn't do it any way different, because you do that for us.
Well, and a lot of that's how you're brought up. I mean, I've just heard you talk about your dad, and you glow when you talk about him. I mean, tell me a little bit about your dad. I know early on he would take you to these planning meetings.
Oh, no, early on. Yeah, we would he would take me to the BLM auctions at the convention center or in the Stardust showroom.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd watch all these old Vegas guys that unfortunately aren't even, here with us anymore, but they were the ones that built this city, okay? Guys like my dad were the ones that built the city.
Right.
And guys like Wynn and the Gons and Mr. Fertitta, they were the ones that, made all the magic happen. But I'll say that yeah, I mean, anything from, with my folks, it was zoning, going to the town board meetings and meeting everybody and meeting the other owners and meeting the town board members and getting to know them. It was the BLM auctions. We would go to the auctions. We would trade land. We would buy land. I mean, you had old, I'm talking 50 years ago, we're in the Stardust showroom, and you have folks that had been here at that time 50, 60 years, right? And they're trading land amongst each other on a handshake. And then they'd meet downtown at the county building or the city and transfer the deed, after they gave each other $1,000 3 days before. Well, I'm going to take it. So, yeah, we would do those. And then during the weekends, what was big, now, granted, I mean, my folks we always did the sports thing. They kept, I mean, we did T-ball and all that stuff. But, I mean, during the weekends, many times we'd be out in the desert just driving in the old Buick and looking for the meridian markers so we could find the corners for my dad to get a hold of the owner and buy the land. And he used to fly a Piper, and he had a Bonanza. He had part ownership, owned half of these planes, and he would fly people. He would fly people up to Utah, up to Cedar City to buy lots up in Bryan Head,
mm-hmm.
and he would buy land guys. He would fly them out to Pahrump and land on the little land strips, and he would also fly guys out to Pahrump for other things too. But I don't want to get into that.
The winery?
Yeah, the winery. That was it. Right? It wasn't even there. But yeah. So, but when he would fly in and out of town, he would circle around the valley, and he would look for the section line roads that had the most used dirt road after the pavement end. And then we would go on the weekend after he would fly over it Then we'd go out there and we'd drive that road until we couldn't drive anymore, and then we'd walk to the next, find the meridian marker for the next corner, which is what he would buy either half section line roads or section line roads. So let's call it Jones. So he would drive out past Tropicana on Jones and till it wouldn't go anymore. And then we'd get out and he'd say, okay, I want to walk until we find the first meridian marker. And that was going to be the next section. That was going to be the next corner. Mm-hmm. And then sometimes he would buy the half section, so he'd now walk halfway back in between the car and where we found that marker, and then I want to put a rock there, and I'm going to mark that because I know that's going to be the half section line road. So we would always buy corners, and he would always buy corners on either section line or half section line corners. We actually still have one of those that I remember driving out here in the Southwest, and there wasn't anything out here. And he still has one on Windmill that he got in '58. We did some stuff out in Henderson, but every time we would drive out to Black Mountain, my dad was always challenged with the lava rock. And then one time we had the Buick with us, and he ripped the oil pan open on it, and he's like, that's it. I'm not buying any land in Henderson. I don't want to come out here for the zoning meetings anyways, and they're all they all know each other, and I don't want to. And I'm like, Dad, whatever, I'm just here to do whatever you tell me to do, right? But that's how we would spend sometimes weekends. And, and as much as my dad, I got to say that, my mom came from Quebec. She could barely speak English when she got here, but she was as much of a land person as my dad was. And actually, my folks actually separated for a few years and got back together, right? Because my dad come from a town of 400 in Nebraska, so he hadn't really sown his oats, I don't think. But make a long story short, so they got separated. But I got to tell you, in that time, my mom picked up two amazing pieces on Jones, okay? And I'll just say that my dad always had a great partner, and my mom knew dirt, and she would drive it, and she would make sure that she stayed on top of everything. And when they got back together, it's like she had got a couple other things, and he had gotten a couple other things, and like them getting back together was going to happen no matter what. Uh-huh. And first and foremost, because they did realize no matter what that they loved each other until they were going to die, and that everything that they had they wouldn't have been able to do without each other, first and foremost. But everything else that came out of it was most certainly not a downside.
So it was truly a family business.
It was truly a family business. And even my brother, although he's not involved so much in some of the land stuff we're doing here in the Valley, he's always been pretty much a maverick as well. He's built 4 customs out in Logandale, all himself, and all owner builds. And right now he's building a second house on his lot right outside of Ogden, because he's banking on Airbnb. He lives right at the base of Snow Basin Resort. So he's Airbnb in his primary house. He's got a cellar that he rents out, and he's realized the Airbnb thing. So, yeah, even my brother kind of plays the real estate game, but he hasn't gotten as into it as much as I have, as like owning triple net lease and having the vacant land and being able to help people on the commercial level with land and office space and things of that nature. He's retired fire department, and more trying to enjoy life, but at least he's thinking outside the box. I like people that think outside of the box.
Makes it fun, right? And you're working on a project now.
Yeah, we're working on a project right now that's really cool, where a guy owns a duplex, but it's not your traditional duplex that's attached. It's 2 separate houses on one parcel number. So if he sells it, he's got to sell it as a duplex for somewhere around $350, and he approached me about, well, what could I do? Is there any way that I could rezone it where I could sell both of the buildings separately? And so we're in the middle of a zoning process, and once we get the lot split in half, and he has 2 separate single-family residentials, he'll be able to sell those each for about $225 to $250, bringing down about $500,000, as opposed to the $350 that he would have made if he had to sell it as a duplex. And I love to help people that think out of the side of the box like that. and they're helping themselves, and all I'm doing is facilitating their dream.
Which is awesome. It's awesome. Again, it's like it's not about taking a listing, selling it to turn it. It's what's best for this gentleman, and how can we maximize this? And this is cool.
This turns me on. I actually put a contract out for Signature last night for $1.5 million on a couple acres over by the M, and that's always a turn on. And I love being able to help my networks on both sides, because on that one I actually am too. Helping the land network that I've been working with for decades, and I'm helping one of our Signature clients who has been pretty amazing. But to make a long story short, this stuff turns me on as much as multi-million-dollar land deals, because, I mean, you're really, really thinking outside of the box and doing something really cool. And he might be able to pick up the couple lots just to the north of him on this and do the same thing and make an extra, like, $400,000 or $500,000 on it. So that's really awesome. I mean, that type of stuff is really cool. And oh my gosh, I was able to do a church this year.
Yeah?
I was able to get a church done this year.
For, Jesse's group.
And it was a 14-month file, but it was worth every second of it. I made some amazing friends that will be my friends until I die. It's going to be a beautiful facility, and we got a great deal. I just mentioned a little while ago, and I can pull the numbers and show them to you. The average acre out in that arena right now is $300,000 to $400,000, minimum $275,000. We were able to get a little over 2 acres, and granted we had some power lines, but we're going to use it for parking lot. It was no big deal, but we were able to get those for $170,000 an acre. Mm-hmm. Half the going rate.
Yeah, they're ecstatic. And Jesse was telling me just the other day how happy they are.
Oh, I was ecstatic to get it done, and we went through zoning on that. We went through special use on that. We went through 2 town board meetings. We went to a couple neighborhood meetings, and that involved even walking the streets on the weekends and talking with the rural and preserved neighborhood to make sure that they were cool with what we were doing in the end. And so they wouldn't come to the county commissioners meeting with their Gestapo bands on and try to fight us on getting it done. If you communicate with people and you show some due respect and you have some history on top of it, it most certainly helps. And you're able to get stuff done when you show respect to people and you're nice and you're honest. And it's going to be a beautiful church. It's going to be a beautiful amenity in their neighborhood. We just had to convey it to them.
Right.
You just have to make the opportunity to convey it to them. And once they knew exactly what we were doing, and we showed them the blueprints when we walked the neighborhood, we had a big old blueprint where we could show them exactly the way it was going to look, how it was going to sit, how we pushed it as far away from their houses as we could, and all of that. They care, and it works. So, yeah, the church, I'm working with some folks down in the medical district right now. They're old Vegas folks, just happy as a hog to get their multi-unit taken care of down there on Shadow Lane. Helping Jeff with this, got the church done, doing some stuff with doing some hotel land right now. So it's awesome.
Right?
It's
and
awesome.
You've had your license, what, about 5 years?
6
years now?
Am.
So you're right at the beginning of his open signature. You get your license, you come here. We're a newer company. You were a newer agent at the time. Obviously, newer licensed, come with a lot more experience than most brand new agents. What did you do before you were selling real estate? I mean, what was Bill's day-to-day?
Well, before I did real estate, I was a food and beverage director on the Strip for many, many years. I was Steve Wynn's assistant food and beverage director and beverage director at the Mirage from 92 until 95. I left there to go run the old boardwalk, which is now where Aria is, right next to the CVS on the Strip at the park. We had an old Coney-style hotel there with a fake roller coaster in front, and I was running pretty much everything there operationally. I had receiving, purchasing, uniform control, catering, food and beverage. I ran that hotel. And it was amazing. It was a great 13-year run, 12-year run at the boardwalk. I could kind of see where the strip was going to be owned by 2 to 3 different corporations, and I could kind of see what was going to be coming down the pipe. And being Old Vegas, it wasn't as fun anymore for me. I was doing a lot more accounting and budgets, which I don't mind, but I was Old Vegas where I wanted to be out there with my guests and my crews and, you know, doing the ice carvings and having the fun. And it was just changing. So I had a partner that we had gotten into the Martin together on, and he had just bought a couple houses up in Summerlin, and he felt like the property management companies were kind of giving him he's like, hey, you know, you're taking a break. I was taking at least a year hiatus after I left the boardwalk, and he's like, you know, you want to manage these for me? And I said, well, I don't want to manage them if I don't own some of it. So I took a percentage of the houses, and then I managed them over a period of about 10 years. And then my friends started approaching me about me managing their rental properties. And I was also always managing our commercial and land. My family stuff that's always going on for the last 40 years. But then I had like my other friends asking me, hey, you know, I need someone to manage. Do you mind taking care of my rental? And I couldn't do it because I'm not an owner, right? So I said, well, maybe I'm going to give this real estate thing a try. And then I went to my dad's old land guy that used to broker the deals for him. And he's one of our agents here. One of them probably even most certainly more knowledgeable than me on dirt itself. Jim said, you know, I love Signature, and I think that you would be a great fit with Brandon. And from the minute I met you and we walked in, we were honest with each other. I had to work through that house thing with you. That took 30 seconds. I knew you were as straight as an arrow with me, and we got right through that. And I have been in heaven since. Brandon, I can never thank you enough for just letting me do my thing and take care of people. And although Signature is second to none with regards to the tools it gives its agents to flourish, not only have you always given me the tools, but you've always given me the freedom to help people. And you know that no matter what I do when I wake up in the morning, I'm trying to help people.
Yeah.
And I know I've done some kind of weird deals over the years and brought some different stuff to the table here at Signature, but I've always felt like I'm part of the greatest family in the city. And anytime anybody ever mentions that they're thinking about getting their license or they're trying to find a home once they've got their license, I'm not surprised that we've grown the way we have. Our leadership is impeccable.
You're too kind.
With you, Janet, guys, Vandana, with all the charity stuff she does. I mean, and then the team beyond that, from Bobby to Ashley to Aaliyah, Andrew as a broker, the amount of image that he provides this brokerage is absolutely amazing. I don't know how he has any time to close any deals, but I mean, the image that he provides us and the image that you provide us and Janet, the modeling that we have in front of us, it's second to none. And it's so family and team oriented that I would never think about going anywhere.
You better not.
I would never think about
I know
going
where some
anywhere.
land in the desert is. I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
I just have to say that, though.
Right. No, and I appreciate that. And I think it starts with good people, and it's like attracts like. And I know that everybody loves to see you come into the office. You're one of the most grateful people ever, and you're always giving a hug, and you're just always got a smile on your face. So it's always fun to work with you. And I really appreciate all that you give back. Like you said, you're always willing to share your knowledge. I mean, after this, you're going in to teach some post-licensing to agents from our company and others that are completing their first year education, so to speak, and you're going to talk about land. And I got to sit through it a couple weeks back because I was coming on after you to teach a little property management. And I was blown away, Bill. Honestly, I learned so much from sitting and listening to you, and that, the section line, the half section line roads, all that kind of stuff, and how the valley's laid out. You were kind enough you had a cabin listed up by Mount Charleston, and you had an offer on it, but I expressed some interest, and you were kind enough to pick me and Tyson up, my son, and we went up there, and just the ride up there was awesome. Just listening to you and you talking about how things were developing out that way, and you said the first thing you look for dirt being moved. And you go to the planning commissions, you find out where the roads are going. That's where you know where the valley's going. And it goes back to, I'm picking this up when your dad, he's finding the roads that are most traveled on the dirt, because that's where everyone's going in and out of. And then he's going just beyond that because he knows that's where it's going. So it's really neat to hear all this and understand how things are operating in the history that you have.
I would love to. The reason I blurt that stuff out is because, like we were with Ty that morning, right?
Uh-huh.
I mean, if I could make something like my dad made happen for me, if I could make that happen for someone else and their family, hey, there's a lot of land out there.
Yeah, well, you gave him the best advice.
I'm not going to take it all, and my family can't buy it all, but if I can create something like that for Ty or some young kid that gets into something now. I mean, my dad got me into Fort Apache and Patrick when I was 21 years old. If I could get someone to just see that if you give something a little bit of time,
it's going to be there. Well, you said something funny. You said it's a little too late for me and your dad, but you should be buying everything that's out here. Because
didn't I say that?
Uh-huh.
It's true, and it's really not too late for anybody, because it's always going to appreciate. And if you get the really, really right corners, you can pick up quite a bit of money in a 5-year period.
Mm-hmm.
But I can do like absolute, and I don't mean to. Now I'm going to make myself sound simple and stupid, but it's really, I can do. I mean, like if Tyson and someone in their 20s invested in land now, it's no brainer that in 20 years from now, they're going to have a good click more money on that dirt than what they paid for it now.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, and that's the turn on for me, is that you can make that magic happen. If you could make that kind of magic that I've been blessed to have for somebody else and their family and their next generation, that's heaven to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that that's the type of stuff that my mom, unfortunately, that isn't with me anymore, would look down and say, you know what, that's a good job, Bill.
They raised you right. You're a good egg.
You can't keep it all to yourself. And it's just, and there's no need. Now, I'm not going to give them my best corners that I might want to buy, but most certainly there's a lot of opportunity for especially younger folks to really, really still capture a lot in this valley. And I love to help.
Yeah, it's awesome. What do you do for fun? I mean, what do you do in your downtime?
Try to go to the cabin. My mom built a cabin up in Bryan Head in '69. There was only about 5 houses up there. There was only one chairlift at the time. That was George's chairlift. So we try to go up to the cabin, try to go down to the beach and relax a little bit. And I have to say that probably if that's one of my biggest challenges with my new career is creating that relaxed time for myself. It's my biggest challenge right now. And the reason is I just look at myself like when I started at the Mirage that first 2 years, and it was still old Vegas. And like I could walk into Steve Wynn's office and have coffee with him and say, hey, is there something you want to do to the Baccarat bar? Should we remodel the Dolphin bar, or should we change the drink menu out at the pool? And sit there and have coffee with Steve for 10 minutes and talk about this stuff was just absolutely amazing. And I had that. It was still old Vegas where you could be really creative, and it was all about, the Mirage was it at the time. That was the new standard for the Strip, right? It was cutting edge when it opened. So, that kind of passion I had for the first 5-6 years on the Strip. In what I do now, I have that passion on steroids, because really when you're dealing with people's houses and their land, or you're managing something for them, there's so much synergy, and you're helping people. And I just love what I do so much right now that my biggest problem probably is the fact that I'm not taking enough downtime with my family and for myself. But when I do, I tend to either go snowboarding up at the cabin. We'll go up to BC. I love the Whistler area. We have a lot of history. We've been going up to British Columbia for the last 20 years, and I really, really love that countryside. We make sure that we touch that land every 2 years on the outside. And then we go to the cabin a bunch, and then we also go down to the beach. I do and love Laguna, and love to just go kind of hang out for a couple days and do nothing. And just kind of recharge my batteries and then come back and jump into it. But it does seem like, for the last 6.5 years, between this company growing so fast and my practice and my client base kind of growing slowly but surely, I'm just always helping somebody, or I'm helping another agent. That's another thing that's happened a lot in the last 2 years or so, is that I'm getting to help other agents learn land, and I'm getting to help other agents learn commercial, and that's a great feeling,
Right.
I mean, because you're helping. I mean, we have some amazing agents here doing some amazing numbers, and they're calling me and saying, "Hey, will you help me out with this land deal? Because I really don't know how to do it." And I love taking my friends that become agents that I'm lucky enough to bring into this brokerage and kind of take them under my wing and get them through their first few deals and make sure that they feel they don't have any anxiety, and that they know that their docs are right. And little stuff turns me on too. I mean, just as long as I'm helping an agent, or I'm clients first.
As long as you're making a difference, you're okay.
Yeah, we have to have purpose, right? I wouldn't know life without purpose. People talk to me about retiring, like I couldn't see myself just selling the triple net and selling all the dirt and
Going to the beach.
That's just not.
That's not you.
No. I got to have purpose, and you got to help people.
So I always tell people when they ask me when you want to retire, I always say I am retired. Because
that's a great idea.
Because retirement, to me, is doing exactly what you want to do when you want to do it. And I feel like that's what I'm doing today. So I feel like I am retired. I don't think I'll ever stop working because I enjoy it,
I need to take that mindset, because then maybe I'll actually create some more quiet time. All I really need to do is create quiet time, because I'm always doing something I love, whether I'm with my kids, or whether I'm doing a deal, or whether I'm sitting with an agent here at 8 o'clock at night trying to figure out how we transfer a lease over on the sale of a house, or whatever it is. I'm loving what I'm doing, so... You're
retired.
I'm retired.
So I know one thing for sure is if there's a Golden Knights game in town, you probably find Bill at the arena, right?
This is true. My mom came from Quebec.
Yeah, so you're a big hockey fan.
I am a huge Knights fan.
Yeah, and so I am too. I love the Knights. When they announced they were coming, what did that mean to you?
It meant everything to me. I was blessed to be with a good friend of mine, Dan Purcell. And at the time, I had just bought a new house, and my mom was really, really failing with, so I'm going to have to give some credit to Dan on that. My mom was failing with Alzheimer's. It was really taken over at the time. And we had just bought that house so I could get close to my folks and be close to my mom and keep my girls as close to my mom as I could at the time. So that was when everyone signed up on the bandwagon. And I thought I had another week, and I missed it. And then Dan Purcell comes over, and he's helping me remodel the bathrooms on this house in Piccoli. And he says, "You know what, dude?" And he goes, "I know how much you love hockey. And out of all of our friends, I'm going to tell you that I'm only going to ask you. But I've got a ticket, and I want you to take it. I had bought it for my dad." And he goes, "I know that you wanted to get tickets for you and your mom, but she's not doing good, and so you don't think you can take her anymore. And I know you're sinking a lot of money into this house.
Mm-hmm.
He says, I'm going to give you this other ticket, and we'll just do 2 tickets. It'll be affordable for you, and I would love to have a great partner. And he and I have been best friends for a long, long time, so I really enjoy going to the games with my best friend. And we always talk about our folks, it seems
Mm-hmm.
like, at those games. His dad he's second generation here. His dad was on Nevada Supreme Court.
Wow.
And was a very prominent lawyer here back in the day. He actually owned a piece of dirt right on Fremont Street Experience that they just sold in 1031 into triple net this last year. But yeah, Tom Purcell was an amazing man here in the Valley that gave back a lot to the state of Nevada. So I'm blessed to be partners with Danny on those 2 tickets, and I can't see us ever letting them go. And I give that credit to Dan's dad and to my mom.
Wow.
Why we have those tickets, and probably why we cherish the games absolutely so much.
Mm-hmm.
I can actually sit here and say this, that we've been season ticket holders now since the beginning, and we have never once sold a ticket.
Really?
We have never once sold a ticket.
So have you been to every game, or
Either he's there,
you're there?
or I'm there with one of the girls,
Or
or
both.
he's there with his family, or we're both there together.
That's
End of
pretty
story.
awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's a great setup, and he's just a great guy to be a partner with. But the nights have been just absolutely amazing. They've been a great charge for me. And I'll say that. You mentioned that earlier, and I don't know how I blew past that. There's my,
Your
if you want
outlet.
to talk about a couple hours where I get to shut off, there's 3 hours a couple times a week during the wintertime that I actually get to shut down. Yeah, I every now and then get something on the phone, or I've got to go up to the concourse and call somebody, but it's very few and far between, and I really do. That's as good as church for me, almost.
So the Knights coming here was a big thing for this city. I think it was one of the things that changed this city from being a tourist transient town to actually a community.
Absolutely agree.
And
100%.
With them coming during the October 1 shooting, it was almost like a perfect storm that this community just got behind this team, because this team came in and took charge in this community. What do you think the Raiders coming, what kind of impact is that going to have on the community? Is it going to be anything similar to that, or what do you think?
Well, can we step back just a second?
Sure.
on the Knights thing prior to October 1? And I think that everything folds together. It's just like a dirt deal. I mean, everything's got to kind of fold together.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the folding there was, and I give this guy a lot of credit, even though he owns all the freaking title companies. So I give Bill Foley a lot of credit.
Yeah.
In pre-October 1, and 2 years before that, where he probably was sitting in an office with a friend just trying to figure out how to maybe get a hockey team here. And I actually know a good friend of his, Kirk Brooks, who owned the ice center. We worked together at the Boardwalk. He owns the ice center there on Flamingo and Fort Apache. And he was a huge supporter and helped Bill get a lot of money. He owns offshore betting companies, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And he left the Strip to start his own offshore betting company. He did very successful with that. Then bought the 5-acre asset, which he got for nothing and is worth 5 times what it was when he got it. But make a long story short, the reason that I think the Knights have had such an amazing success is because of the roots that Foley planted.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that he approached the community and he said, you know what, I'm not going to take a penny. It's not going to raise any room taxes. It's not going to do anything but bring people to this city to spend more money and put us on the map with regards to a hockey team. And we're going to take care of it, and it's going to be a grassroots effort. I think, unfortunately, and I'm going to do it, that October 1 was such a sad event.
Right.
That it just folded everybody. All of that work he did prior and all the work ethic he showed, and that he was really doing it mainly for the community. And I mean, yeah, the tickets weren't the cheapest in the world.
They're still not.
The environment that you get and the show that you get with it more than justifies what our ticket prices are, in my opinion. And the fact is that he did not have to raise any room taxes. He did not ask the community for any money. And he built that, had all of the seats sold before they even started the T-Mobile, I think. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's why when October 1 came down, that's why, because everyone knew that Bill was doing this from the ground up, and it was really going to be our team and not a transplant. And it was going to start here. I think that's the Vegas-born part of
is
the
huge.
Knights, in my opinion, holds a lot more water than any other marketing tool they have. And it shows in the way that the fans have come in and supported that organization. It is shown at every game, right from when we sing the anthem.
Right.
So it, in my opinion, it's just been an amazing organization and an amazing thing for the overall community. I think that the Raiders are going to bring a lot to the table. I have a little concern. I have a little concern in the fact that they're kind of walking away from a Bill in Oakland, but at the same time they need a change. I think the Raiders are going to bring a lot of California traffic. I think they're going to bring a lot of California residents to the state of Nevada with everything they're dealing with down there between the fires and the earthquakes and the taxes, that they're just going to continue to exodus out of there to come here. And I welcome them. I think, I think this is a great haven for anyone that's been, in my opinion, overtaxed and taken care of down in California for what they pay for that land and their taxes and the gas and all of it. I think that this is going to be a great thing, but I do believe that the one thing is I wish they would have put the stadium a little further out. It seems like with it being on the inside of the 215 that it was really tied to the casinos.
Yeah.
And I think that the casinos will flourish from it, but I do believe that the locals that want to go to the games are going to struggle to get in and out of the stadium during the games. But other than that, I think it's going to be a positive for the city. I don't know that they're going to have the immediate push from the locals that the Knights had right out of the gate. But I do think, given with time, that they'll find their home here, and as time goes on, Vegas will be their new home. And
right.
I can't see them transplanting from here. I can't see anybody leaving Vegas thinking that they could do better.
I think
they're
clawing to get in now. And going back to the Knights, this community needed something to hold on to. It needed something to pull us together as a community. I think the Knights did that. And you talk about the experience of going to those games, how the ticket price is worth it. What I like about it, because I go to a fair number of them, and is that before, when I first moved here, you could go places and you would never run into somebody you knew. But when you go to a Knights game, you're going to see your friends. You're going to see people, and it's a great place to meet up. So for me, I do believe the tickets are worth it. That experience is worth it there. So it's really cool. The Raiders, I think it'll be a different experience. I think it's going to be more of a corporate team rather than a fan-based team, so to speak.
So
I think but I'm really excited for what that stadium's going to bring to this market, and the other events and everything else that's going to happen in there.
Well, I do think that's awesome that the U.N.L.V. is going to be able to play at that stadium.
That's going to be neat, too.
I think that is going to be amazing. And you're right, the facility is just breathtaking.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what they've put together on that little acreage is absolutely amazing. But, I just envisioned something with like 20 acres of parking next to it where people could actually, that's just, I'm sure they have a plan. And I've been going to the meetings, and I go to the commissioners meeting, and they're talking about the one over there on Las Vegas Boulevard in Russell. But I just don't know how long the line's going to be to get on the shuttle to get back and forth, right?
Right.
And if they're going to have enough shuttles. So I'm anxious to see it unfold.
Yeah.
I'm anxious to see it unfold. I think the stadium itself is going to be talked about for the next 20 years. And I do think that the Raiders are only going to be, they're only going to be using it, 8 days a year? I mean, right, really.
For 8 games, yeah.
Half the season, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because they're on the road.
Well, hopefully they make the playoffs and we get to use it a little bit more.
Hallelujah, I'm in
Right.
on that. But I'm anxious. I mean, I could actually see like the Foo Fighters playing there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm anxious to see the U.N.L.V. team play there, and maybe they start getting better. I really thought Tony was going to take that team to the next level. And I don't know that we gave him enough time, but those are just personal opinions. And I am an O'Gorman kid. I was impressed with what he did with the Gorman football squad,
Mm-hmm.
but at the same time, I think that we needed to give him another year because there was a lot of other things going on while he's been in there. I mean, they're doing the stadium, he redid the practice facility.
Right.
I mean, and he's coaching the team. And he has brought at least stature and the reputation and our street cred up on that team. I just wish that maybe we'd have given him another year. But I am excited for U.N.L.V. to play there. I'm excited for the Raiders to play there, and I'm excited for all the other events that might actually like the Foo Fighters never come here because they played the festival last weekend,
Mm-hmm.
and that was the first time they've been here in like 20 years because those larger bands need they bring large audiences. And I'm anxious to see if that corner, because that's old school for me. My mom worked at the Sahara for 29 years in the showroom.
Yeah, so that's right across the street from where I live. I live in the Allure. So
Yeah,
I watched them set up for that festival. You know, they put those big tents up and stuff. It took them like a month to get them up, and it took them like 48 hours to tear it all down.
It's crazy, right?
But yeah, I wish they would develop something else there, maybe some outdoor mall or something like that. I think it'd be good for the values in that area, but I don't know if they will.
Yeah, I just was happy to see that at least we had a place for the Foo Fighters to come play,
Mm-hmm.
And certain other bands I think will consider that venue. But now that we have the stadium, there's no one that couldn't come. We could take U2 in there. You could do anyone.
Right.
I mean, it's for real. And the Silver Bowl was always a great place, but it's not like that.
Right.
It's not that product. And if you could see Bono coming and playing at the Raiders Stadium, that would most certainly bring a lot more people than playing at the Silver Bowl.
That'd be a pretty good experience.
And I think it would be an amazing experience. And those are the things that I'm looking forward to seeing there, along with the Raiders. And I'm really hoping that the Raiders do really, really great. I think that the Oakland people, the one thing I could say about it is that us in California have a great relationship. Like I've been going to California since I'm 6 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Californians love Nevadans, and Nevadans love Californians. I mean, it's not like we're very, very similar. I mean, we're a little bit more redneck here and a little bit more cowboy.
And better drivers.
Well,
Just kidding.
we don't have to deal with the density they do
Yeah.
on those streets. So, I mean, they have to deal with all that traffic. But my point just is, there's always been great synergy between us and California.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think that even the hardcore Oakland people, yeah, they might have been crying the other day when they had their last game there. But at the same time, I think they know that what's happening here is going to be great for that team.
For that
and
team,
I think
yeah.
that deep down, hardcore Raider fans are actually happy because now they have what they deserve, which is a real venue. They're not being hammered by the city for monies, and it's not all the controversy, and you're not dealing with all the traffic to get to and from games. And you know what? A lot of them are coming here anyways.
Yeah, and I think I think that move for the Raiders will make them one of the top profitable franchises in sports. I mean, they already have a fan base, one of the largest fan bases in football. Now they'll have the revenue with it too.
Yeah, I think that's great.
I think it's a win-win for everybody. So
yeah, and I really have to say that I think I think that the baseball stadium that was done at downtown Summerlin
that's beautiful.
was a great addition for us to do, the training camps for the majors. And I don't think that they're done with that yet. I have a feeling that there might be something coming there too.
Yeah.
And I'm anxious to see the rest of that dirt around downtown Summerlin, what that's going to metamorphosize into, because they're always cutting edge and thinking ahead. They've been doing some multi-unit there, which I have a feeling something's going to happen there. And then now with the new Blue Tech development that's going in off of Cactus and Las Vegas Boulevard.
That's going to be neat.
Oh, that's, that's a 210 acre resort that's going to be complete cutting edge. And they were actually talking about self-healing concrete. What is self-healing concrete? Like, I'm going to take a hammer and I'm going to hit a chip into it and it's going to fix itself? I want to see this stuff. It's just crazy. And all self-sufficient, ran by the solar and wind. They're going to have the wave pools. And, that's Kay's big project. It is a $7.6 billion build. Bellagio was 18 million. Back in the day,
18 million.
Yeah.
Not even a billion, huh?
Not a billion. You're talking about $7.8 billion project.
It's crazy.
Going on right in between the M and the Main Strip corridor. So yeah, I just between the stadium, the practice facility, and that new project, and everything that's happening around the M right now, I just think that southern end is going to be very active for the next 20 years. Yeah, I love it all. I think it's great. And I'm excited for the Raiders. I really, really am. I hope that they do really good. But I have to tell you that number one in my heart will always be the Knights.
Yeah. They're always going to be something special here. First professional sports team to come to Vegas. I think and Vegas born, like you said. So they'll always be special.
I just love it.
They'll always be special to me, just as you will be too. I appreciate all you do, Bill.
I appreciate
and I appreciate you taking the time to come sit down and just talk with me today. So
I hope this went okay. I'm just I love to be with you, and any way I can help this team, any way that I can help our organization, I love to do it. I'm really looking forward to 3 Square in 2 weeks. So anyways, I do. I absolutely I'm jazzed to be with Signature. I feel like the luckiest guy every day.
Well, we're the luckiest people to be able to work with you, too. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for your time.
Thank you for listening to the Signature Life podcast. If you enjoyed today's show, please leave a review and subscribe. Don't forget to also follow us on YouTube and Facebook.